Hey YouTube, how is it going? I hope all is well. I'm going to try to make this one a very short and sweet TLDR version of this video series on this particular combo amp build that I'm doing. For those of you who don't know what that means, TLDR is too long didn't read. In this case, it would be too long didn't listen, but whatever. In either case, the opening track that you heard was an offering from Rhett Scholl. He recently put out a couple videos. One of them was Klon, is it worth it? And then another one was the PV, like some PV amp, like why isn't this more popular or something like that. But he recently released a couple of backing tracks that if you go and you sign up on his website or whatnot, you can get access to those. I appreciate that. I hope he doesn't mind that I used it in this context. It didn't seem to be that he was too worried about that because you did offer him up for free. Rhett, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Please don't hurt me. For those of you who don't know who Rhett Scholl is, go check out his videos. He's got a lot of them. You can hardly miss them. Check him out, find him, and patronize him, subscribe to him, and all that jazz. With that out of the way, the track that you initially heard was actually a live recording of that amplifier using a SM57 to record that amplifier. I put it about 4 or 5 inches in front of the amp and about 3 to 4 inches off axis, and that was the spot where it sounded right in the room, and with that microphone to fit the song that to fit the recording that Rhett had produced. Later on, I used a different method to record it. I used a Captor X, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But for this first track, the opening track, intro track, if you will, I used the Dude pedal from J-Rocket Audio with a Telecaster that I built. And I had a little more time to rehearse that one, so the recording came out a little bit better. It was a little more timed out, I guess, if you will. Like I had a little more of an idea of where I was going to go. And I really like blues. Like blues is kind of where I sit, that's my thing. But I did what I could in the time frame that I had, literally try to listen to it a few times, get a groove, and do a couple few takes, and you get what you get in that last take. So there's that. Later on I'll explain a little bit more about the other one as we get closer to that. This is the bridge here. And then the neck. If you're into it, in the middle position. The number 4 position. And then the number 2 position. Alright, here's just a, this is a Dark Sun, and it's just, reverb delay thing, so. So for now, though, let's talk a little bit about how this amp came to be. More or less, my wife is very involved in the community, and she's part of a few different organizations where we live. And one of the organizations that she works with is up for, they're up to be a grantee for an upcoming fundraiser. It hasn't passed yet, but by the time this video is released, it will probably have come and gone. But in either case, they said, hey, we just need some items to auction off. Can you go find some for us? That was her job, right? She's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then she got this wild hair up her butt to have me build an amp. So she told him, hey, my husband builds guitar amplifiers. He'll build you a guitar amplifier. I couldn't say no. I agreed, and I told her that it's going to cost her. What it cost her was about 3 or 4 months of her attention, of the attention that she would get from me. That's what it cost her, because I basically spent almost all of my free time in the garage building this thing for this purpose. She was okay with that. I don't think she cared, to be honest. Sorry. I know. I'm not a simp, though. It's all good. So I keyed. In either case, so that started for me back in about October, the early part of October. I want to say October 9th or 12th or something like that is when I started ordering parts for this amplifier. And then I didn't finish it until January the 1st. So, that period of time is what it took to get the amp actually built. And then here we are now still recording some stuff, and we're literally a week away from this, the fundraiser. So, what does it take? How did it be to get to this point? Yada, yada, yada. Well, so I had an idea when she said, hey, will you do this? And I said, yes. I already had a kind of an idea in my head, and I knew that I couldn't I couldn't auction off a head in an auction. I only build heads, right? I don't do combo amps. So I already knew I was going to have to change the game as soon as I said yes. So my idea was, hey, I'll put up a combo amp, and I know what I want to do. I have this design that I was kind of interested in that I wanted to make already, but now I have an excuse to do it and put it in a combo amp and present to the world. So here we are. So I got busy cranking out the design, ordered the parts, and let me tell you, the hardest part about building this guitar amplifier was the cabinet. It's one of those things where, as you're building it, when you're going along, you're kind of doing it in a linear fashion, right? For me, I didn't have time to build it twice. I had to build it right the first time. So I spent a lot of time making sure I got the math right. And I still had to pivot, 2 or 3 times during the build in order to make it work. Just things that the foresight isn't there. You can't see it until it's, in front of you and it's already too late, those sort of things. So there's just a couple things where there's a couple big things where it's like, well, we're going to have to change up a little bit and go with this. And that's that, whatever. But the hardest part, honestly, was building the cabinet. And kind of a funny story about the cabinet and the color that it ended up in is I work with my best friend, right? Brian, we'll just call him Brian. So his name is Brian. I hit him up. I was like, hey man, I need to pick a Tolex color for this amplifier. Go to this, check out some options here on Amazon or whatnot. Tell me which one you like. So he sends me a text and he says, hey, text. He says, I like this one. Get that one. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll check it out. And then he sent me another text shortly after going, mwahaha, like he was like kidding or something like that, but he didn't really make it clear that he was kidding. So I went home, I asked the wife, I was like, hey, what about this color here? And she's like, yeah, I love it. Get it. So I went on the website and I got it. I went into work the next morning, see Brian. I was like, hey Brian, I got those colors, man. Got that Seafoam Tolex. And he's like, what? I was kidding. I hate that color. So while he was trying to be cute and funny, it turned out being like a happy accident because I really do love that color. I can't imagine this amp in any other color. And it just, with the walnut and the grill cloth that I went with and all that, it's perfect. So I'm kind of super happy it worked out the way it did, much to Brian's chagrin. So that being said, it takes pedals like a champ. So you're listening right there to The Dude. I have a J-Rocket Audio The Dude pedal set up pretty much, what do you want to say, 11 o'clock on both the tone knobs. There's no point in showing you. It's going to sound different on your amp anyway. It's going to sound different when you play. The ratio knob, if you will, is probably sitting at about 1 to 2 o'clock right in there. This is going to be sloppy. I only get one shot at this, really, and none of this is rehearsed. Literally, I found out 20 minutes ago that I have to give this thing up tomorrow. As far as building the amp, though, like I was saying, the cabinet is really the hardest part. It's the most amount of work, and working in it in that way is just, it's a pain in the butt. The amplifier itself, there's not much to say about it, really. It's a, 5-watt amplifier. It's got one 12AX7 and one EL84. It's kind of in the ilk of a Epiphone Valve Junior, Dr. Z Mini Z, or AC4 or something like that, right? They all have a single 12AX7 and an EL84. That's about where the similarities end, though. I do have my own kind of design in the front end, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot because it's literally just a parallel triode feeding straight into the output tube. That is enough to drive it into distortion, mind you, so it doesn't take much to get an EL84 to break up. In this particular design, I went with an oversized output transformer, so I didn't want the output transformer to really color the sound too much. I wanted full bandwidth, and I didn't want it to saturate and, introduce itself much into the whole of the sound. I think that was a great decision. So I went with a 10 watt, rated output transformer with an amp that's realistically producing 4.5 watts or something like that. So I biased it not too hot, but not too cold. These days, I don't see a reason to go, especially with a Class A amp, there's no need to really go biasing it at 101%, you know what I mean? So I was happy with that, and it sounded great with the test speaker that I had, and I went with the design. I said it again. Luckily, I went with the speaker that I consider to be my desert island speaker, if you will. I really have come to like the Celestion Creamback 65. It's not the most efficient speaker, especially for this kind of an amplifier, build type anyway. It's not the highest output, I guess, if you will. The sensitivity is a little bit lower than some of the other options out there. But obviously you don't need a 65 watt speaker for a 5-watt amplifier. But I like the speaker. I like the way it sounds. And again, I wasn't really interested in getting, a breakup or something like that. I didn't want to put a 5-watt speaker in a 5-watt amp. So I think I made the right choice because it sounds amazing. It sounds much, much bigger than it actually is. It just doesn't get as loud as, an obviously more powerful amplifier would. That's really all it is. It is meant to be, for as odd as it is to be a 5-watt amplifier, it is meant to be a clean pedal platform amp. Dare I say it is meant for like a bedroom player or somebody who does a lot more studio work or is in a band that just doesn't rely on volume to do the job. So it does all those things in spades, even though it only has one volume control. I'm super happy with it. No expense was spared on this thing. Obviously, I went with a Creamback 65. Those are not cheap these days. I went with the best components I could find. Everything is high end. So I put everything into this amp, and I spent, several months making sure it was as good as it could possibly be, because I wanted it to be a win for this organization. I'm super stoked that, you know, we get to put this thing up for auction, and hopefully somebody's going to get to take it home. The organization's going to make a bunch of money, and, you know, I'm really excited for whoever wins this amp. I'm hoping that they're going to be as happy to have won it as I am to have made it for this cause. So there is that. And if you're into stacking drives, this is this is both the Triumph and the Dude all together. One other thing, I've said a couple thank yous earlier, one to Rhett Scholl, but I want to also say thank you to Bob of Brookwood Leather. If you haven't already watched the other parts of the videos, Bob of Brookwood Leather, he gave me, or, you know, gifted me the handle that is used in this amplifier. I didn't ask him to. I didn't expect him to. I didn't really try to drive it that direction, but he gifted it for that cause, and I can't thank him enough. It's a beautiful handle, and it's perfect. It's perfect for this amp. I can't imagine any other handle on this thing. If you're looking for a new handle for your amplifier, or you're looking for a handle just in general for your amplifier, do not look any further than Brookwood Leather. Bob's a great guy, and he also makes other things too, like guitar straps. He's got several different types of guitar straps. He's got several different types of handles, among other things as well. So check him out. Give him your patronage. I can't thank him enough. Bob, I'm going to say to you, thank you. So that's really all there is in terms of the build on this amplifier. I guess some of my design concepts, for those of you who care, my whole thing is it's got to look just as good as it sounds. To me, it's important that you see the amplifier. Like, it's, you know, a lot of these things, you know, the different companies, they put their name on the front, but you don't really see anything. It's just a name. And for some people, that's great. That's enough. But for me, I want to be just as proud to display the name as I am the amplifier itself. Like, it's got to look great and it's got to sound great. So that's my whole thing. That's my motif. I like the mirror in the back. I like the lights. I like you to be able to see what you're hearing, right? That's it, really. So there is that. Moving on. So the other segments of this video series you'll hear are like there's some static shots of like an iPhone literally pointed at an amplifier. That is actually that amplifier playing to an iPhone in a room. That's what it sounds like through an iPhone in a room. So it kind of gives you an idea. It's not the most, unfortunately, I ran out of time to really create the content for this thing. I built the amp, like I said, I finished on January the 1st, and I literally only had like a week before I had to turn the amp in and give it up for this, for them, for the, you know, the society or whatnot, to create their media for the upcoming auction. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to really put all my work into it. But I got a couple tracks out of it, and, you know, got a couple snippets here kind of showing what it can do. So obviously you get an idea of what it kind of sounds like in the room, utilizing an iPhone as the microphone source. And then the last track in the outro that you're just about to hear, that is done with a Torpedo Captor X. Kind of the same thing. The only thing I did differently in this track is that instead of using just the Dude, I have a Pure Sky that I stacked on top of it later in the track. And you can actually hear me. I have a hot mic on while I'm recording. More or less on this one, I didn't take as much time to really get to write out a right out of tune for it. I listened through it a couple times to get an idea for the groove, and then I just kind of went. So I think I took like 3 or 4 takes, and the one that you're hearing is the one that kind of came out from it. So I had me a couple drinks to loosen up, and then you can kind of hear me ha ha ha, and talking to you as we go along. But objectively, it was just to try to display the amp and what it can kind of do. So in that one, I used the Pure Sky, which is like a Timmy copy that I stack on top of the dude later on in that segment, and then I totally fall apart. Don't judge me. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. If you like this kind of stuff, subscribe and like, and leave a comment if you would. I don't mind. I carry conversation well. I have more coming. I do have another build series coming up. I have another amp that I'm actually going to be prototyping. It will be a production amplifier that I'm working on. It is a 30-watt design. Yeah, you can call it an AC30 if you want. That's not what it is, but it's in that ilk. So, imagine an AC30, a matchless DC30, and a Ken Fisher Liverpool. That whole kind of lineup, if you will, but then made with my own touches, right? So it's neither of the above, but kind of in that vein, if you will. So we're going to go through and chronologue kind of how that one becomes what it ends up being. So you'll kind of get to see that. I'm going to go a little more in depth on that one. I'm also going to spend a little bit more time trying to get the production level up. You can kind of already hear some of that right now. I'm using actually one of my nice microphones to record the audio from my vocals, as opposed to just using the iPhone hung and slung in front of me or whatever. So objectively, I'm trying to up the production value just a little bit. No, you're not going to see my face, but whatever. You don't need to see that to know where we're going. But thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll hopefully see you again on the next one soon. Take care. Bye. I'll talk to you a little bit while I'm playing here. I'm not going to take this too seriously. This isn't really rehearsed, so. Probably won't be playing this song all the way through. It's a little long. That's a little long, so I wouldn't want to try to solo all the way through. It gets a little weird, but let's try something new here. So right now I'm going to play the Pure Sky over, I'm going to stack it with the Moro timbre. Got that one just in time. Wasn't sure where it was going to go. We'll do a little more here. audience enough of that. I gave it a shot.